we've got relative risk. A school keeps records of students doing a course involved in 4 achievement standards. The data summarised in the table above. What is the risk a student enrolled in a course is failed exactly one standard? So this is the number of standards failed, and it says exactly 1. So there's 1 standard failed. So the risk is 0.1. Okay? So that's fine. So that's where it came from. Nice. So the next one. What is the risk that a student enrolled in the course failed all 4 standards? So number of standards failed 4 is here, and the risk is 0.4. So that's where that comes from. Correct. So the next one. What's the risk a student enrolled in the course failed more than 2 standards? Yeah, so you can fail 3 standards or 4 standards. So it's the 0.2 plus 0.4. That's what we did yesterday, yeah. So that adds together to be 0.6, so that's fine. The next one, what's the probability a student enrolled in the course failed exactly 2 standards? So we're looking at 2 standards, exactly 2 standards is 0.1. So that's where that 0.1 comes from. Now we get to relative risk. What is the relative risk a student enrolled in the course failed more than 2 standards? So the more than 2 standards was 0.6. If the risk a student passes all standards is the baseline risk. So the baseline risk is on the denominator, and it said passes all. So they failed none. So failing none is 0.2. So, oh, oops, where are we? We're here. So we've got the 0.6 over the 0.2 because the baseline risk goes on the bottom. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So that's where that 3 comes from. And that means that you're 3 times more likely to fail more than 2 standards than you are to pass the lot. Okay? So a student is 3 times as likely to fail 2 or more standards as to pass the lot. So it's C. Okay, so it's like a multiplier. Alright. Next one. Out of 1,000 people, it was found 34 had traffic accidents in 10 years of driving. What's the risk a driver has? Oops. A traffic accident in 10 years. Okay, so we've got 34 out of 1,000, and that is just 0.034. Okay. Next one. Out of 1,000 people given defensive driving courses, it was found that 10 had traffic accidents. Okay, so 10 out of the 1,000 is that. All right. So what's the risk a driver who had a defensive driving course has a traffic accident in 10 years? And we talked about this. The 10 years here has got numbers and the 10 years here has got letters. It's all kind of tricky. And this was the one that I got the language wrong last time. Referring to questions 7 and 8 and taking the risk of having a traffic accident in a 10-year period as the baseline risk. So the defensive driving course is this one, and the actually having an accident was the 0.34, right? 34 out of 1,000. So it says that having an accident is your 34 out of 1,000 is on the bottom because it's your baseline risk. Find the relative risk of having an accident in 10 years if you have a defensive driving course. So that was 10 out of 1,000. So on your calculator, can someone go put that in? Okay. So we need to go into run, and we need to go 10 divided by 34 because the thousands cancel. Or you go 10 divided by 1000, and then you divide by 34 divided by 1000. It's just easier to do the brackets. So you've got 0.29. So that's correct there. But it's the meaning of it that you can easily get tripped up on. So you really have to stop and think about the language. And I think it's best if you actually write. So this 10 out of 1000 was what? This was having an accident when you've had a defensive driving course. And then this one was having an accident. Okay? So what does it mean? Yeah. Yeah. But if we go back here, what was question 7? Out of 1,000 people, it was found that 34 had traffic accidents in 10 years. So that's actually whether they've done a defensive driving or not, isn't it? So it's like, you know, some of these people might have had a defensive driving course as well. Yeah. So that's actually confusing in that. Like very. But let's have a look at the wording here. So here, what's the percentage improvement? If we take, we've got 29%, so it's like 29, they have 29% of the accidents, if you like. So what's your 100% minus your 29% is what? 71%. So there's a 71% improvement in the accident rates if drivers take a defensive driving course. So it's B. I would have preferred that if on the bottom it specifically stated they didn't take defensive driving courses. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing still. You really have to think.